What is up, guys? Welcome on into Pickswise Playbook. This is Week 5 edition presented by Superbook Sports. It's crazy to think we're already in Week 5 of the NFL football season. Lauren Jabari here, Tank Williams, Jared Smith. Jared, how are you? We're already a quarter of the way through the season at this point.
Yeah, it's wild. And of course, now that there's 17 games, we don't have that nice, neat 4-week, 16 quarter poll, but we're in the vicinity. So sure, quarter of the way through. Again, there's a lot of teams that I think we kind of have a good idea of. And I think there's still a lot of teams where the jury's still out. So we'll get another data point this week.
I know. And Tank, how the heck are you? A quarter of the way through the season. Yeah. Teams that have surprised you or not surprised you. Do you feel like we're kind of getting to know what some of these teams are made of this season?
I think we're getting a sense for what these teams have in store for the rest of the season. I really like what I saw from the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Philadelphia Eagles. They didn't cover, but that was a really competitive game. They jumped out fast, and so I feel really good about them the rest of the way. And Justin Fields, I mean, there was a lot on social media about his passing prop last weekend. He smashed it, so I'm looking forward to the unexpected right here in Week 5 as well.
I like it. We can't forget Tank Williams, first team All-American in 2001. I'm making sure to mention it.
It almost feels like a running joke now.
We're going to mention it all season long, every single show.
That's going to be on my tombstone. Tank Williams, first team All-American.
By the end of the season, you'll wish you were a second team All-American.
Oh my God. All right, a lot to get into starting with Week 5. But first of all, let's look at some of the trends that we've had through 4 weeks. Right now, the best under teams last week, Bengals 4-0, 49ers 4-0 to the under, and the Colts 4-0 to the under. Best over team this season, pretty crazy to think, is my Detroit Lions, who are 4-0 to the over. The underdogs, 27, 36, and 1 straight up. If you bet all underdogs, you're up 5.7 units. And underdogs are 38, 25, and 1, which is running about a 60% rate against the spread. But let's get into some Week 4 surprises from last week. And I know Jared and I are kind of vibing the same surprise right now because we all wrote him off, but he ain't right back, Jared. Who do you think is your biggest Week 4 surprise?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some teams that are certainly in this category, but we talked about this a little bit on Let's Bet It earlier this week. If you want to talk about one individual human being that has surprised me more than anyone else in the league, it absolutely is Geno Smith. So the way that, the analytics grades quarterbacks expected points added plus CPOE, which is completion percentage over expectation, it's kind of like a joint number that gets, slabbed onto these quarterbacks every week. Well, right now through 4 weeks, Geno Smith leads the NFL in that category, ahead of Patrick Mahomes, ahead of Lamar Jackson, ahead of Josh Allen. I mean, these are guys that historically put up unbelievable numbers every season, and they're always in the top tier of that category. Well, Geno's beaten them all. Now, does that mean we're going to see team success for the Seattle Seahawks going forward? Probably not. I think the defense will hinder that. But, Tank, you probably can speak to this. He's been in the league for 9 years. He's bounced around several different teams. I actually covered the Jets his rookie year when he punched out IKN and Polly in the locker room. It's taken so many twists and turns, but for the Russell Wilson trade to result in this opportunity for him and for Geno to take the reins and run with it, it's so impressive what he's been able to do, reinventing his career in Seattle. And right now he's grading out as the best, most accurate, most efficient quarterback in the league through 4 weeks. It's truly remarkable.
It really is
I think
remarkable.
You raised some really good points. Yeah, absolutely. Especially just one touch on Geno. I mean, when you think about it, he lit it up in college, and we really didn't know what to expect once he made it to the league. And, he kind of fizzled out with the Jets. But I think the one thing that really helped him, he was in New York for a little bit studying under Eli Manning. I mean, that's the Super Bowl winning quarterback. And then you go to Seattle, you get a chance to study under Russ. And then now once you finally get the reins so many years down the road, I mean, let's not get it twisted. He has DK Metcalf. He has Tyler Lockett to throw the ball to. That offensive line has been approved over the last year and change. And actually, Rashad Penny is running the rock a little bit for him right now, too. So it's not like the cupboard is bare, but you still can't take anything away from Geno. He's exceeded all of our expectations. And the way it's looking right now, I think he's going to continue to.
Yeah, to be honest with you, he's playing better in Seattle than Russell Wilson did the last couple of years. And it's been extremely fun to watch kind of how he's I guess, rejuvenated and revived that offense a little bit this season. Especially last week. I know, obviously, they beat my Detroit Lions. It was a bummer for me, but that game was so much fun to watch. Just all the points being scored, all of the different routes. That was just a really exciting game. I'm pumped for Geno. People are definitely not writing him off anymore. That's for sure, heading into week 5. Speaking of week 5, let's switch it up, guys. We got a lot of week 5 key matchups that we need to get into. One of them being the Giants taking on the Packers right now. The Packers laying 8 points. We're taking it across the pond for the second straight week in the NFL. Last week, we had the Vikings taking on the Saints. This week, the Giants figuring out their quarterback situation. No Daniel Jones, probably suffered an ankle sprain, and then Tyrod Taylor, which, Jared, we were talking about Tyrod Taylor last week, and we're like, where did he end up? Well, guess what? He's playing for the Giants under Daniel Jones, and he got a concussion. So who knows what's going to happen with that quarterback situation? I know Jake Fromm, A.J. McCarron both visited the team this week. Interested to see what's going to happen there. The Packers have won 3 games in a row, last week barely against the Pats. But, Jared, I'll start with you first. Your thoughts on this game. Should Green Bay be favored by 8 points, or should it be even more because of the quarterback situation that the Giants are dealing with right now?
I think you have to, kind of read between the lines here. The fact that we haven't seen this number move at all over the last few days, who knows? It could be a massive, 6-point, 7-point move if you go from Daniel Jones to a third stringer. But the fact that it's kind of held serve at that touchdown plus number tells me that Daniel Jones is going to play in this game. And in fact, I would say if he does play in this game, we might see this line tick back towards 7.5 or 7 once we get to game day. Listen, this Packers offense is not blowing anybody away right now. They're kind of a middle-of-the-road offense. They're 14th in EPA per play. They run at a snail's pace. They have the slowest neutral pace, which is basically first and second down early in the game of the entire league. So, they don't like to get out and run. They're not going to blow past anyone. Obviously, they've got, maybe the greatest quarterback of our generation, arguably, in Aaron Rodgers. But it doesn't really look like this patented Packers offense that's going to air it down the field. They're a ground-and-pound team that likes to control the ball. Now, the Giants defensively, that's where you think maybe Green Bay can outflank New York a little bit here. But I certainly don't trust Daniel Jones, especially in a pressurized cabin on an injured ankle going 8 hours across the pond. We'll see what that impact and the travel and the routine being thrown off in London has an impact on that Giants offense this week with Jones limited in practice. This feels like an under game. Pretty decent spot, I would say, to team the Packers. I expect them to win this game, but I don't think I want to bet this right now just because of all the uncertainties and sort of, the weirdness going on in London.
Yeah, for you, Tank, this is probably going to be the toughest game for the Giants since week 1 against the Titans, right? Can they overcome the injuries here, especially to their quarterback? And is a half-healthy Daniel Jones better than a third-string quarterback in this position?
See, that was the thing. Like, I was actually glad to see Daniel Jones practice today because I was like, are we really going to do this again? Like, get a third-string quarterback going up against the Green Bay Packers, and then you giving them a lot of points only for them to disappoint us and push this thing to overtime. But I would say after the experience last week, you actually heard Aaron Rodgers talking about it in the media saying that we can't have games like that against a third-string quarterback. He was sending a message out to the team. So regardless who plays in this game, I have a feeling that the Packers – you don't bet this. I'm just talking off the top of my head just based on how locker rooms operate. Like, they're going to cover. I would tell you that the Packers will definitely cover this week, regardless of who the Giants roll out at quarterback. And I think they really match up well against the Giants because you can run the ball on them. And as Jared was already talking about, they ran the ball 35 times last week. They threw it 35 times last week. They got some splash plays from Romeo Dobbs. Actually, Cobb looks like he's like in his 3rd year in the league the way he's moving around right now. I don't know how long that's going to last. I don't know if they need to test my guy, but whatever's going on is working for right now because he looks pretty good. But I would say that the offense is starting to round together. And I would say just after that disappointing outing against the New England Patriots last week, I would expect that defense to tighten up as well. They are facing Saquon Barkley. We know that he is back. At that being said, Saquon can't do it by himself. So I think lean under on this one. Look for Green Bay to dominate the clock with the run game. And I wouldn't bet it, but I would expect them to probably cover this as well.
The total is hit on the under in 9 of the Giants' last 11 games. So that trend could be your friend here in this spot. Let's head up to the beautiful city of Cleveland because we all love the Cleveland Browns. They're taking on the Chargers this week. The Chargers 3-point favorites. That total is set at 48, and the Chargers finally got in the win column after back-to-back losses. They had a huge win last week over the Texans, and the Browns lost to the Falcons, but Nick Chubb did look solid. I felt like this spread should have been a little bit higher. Tank, I don't know about you, but do you feel comfortable betting the Chargers laying 3?
No, absolutely not. You never know what you're going to get out of the Chargers. I think they're a really good football team. They're dealing with some injuries right now. But, I mean, look at the last time they played Cleveland. I'm hoping that we see this game again. I mean, that last game was in L.A., but that was a shootout. And, I mean, I don't know how many times I got to talk about Nick Chubb with the bubble guts, but I think that's going to be another case because the Chargers can't stop anybody when they run the ball, and I have a feeling that Nick Chubb is going to be running through them like he's on his way to a porta potty, like in Six Flags or something. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm telling you, like, the Chargers have been – like, when you look at the Houston Texans where you know they're going to run the ball with Pierce because they really can't throw the ball that effectively, and the only guy that they throw the ball to really is Brandon Cooks, and Pierce still ran the ball all the way down their throat. So when you have the best running attack in the league, when you have Nick Chubb, and then you add on top of that, dang, why am I blanking on my man? Kareem Hunt. Like, that's just a terrible potion that the Chargers have to face, especially when you look at it to where they got that bounce back win that they needed in Houston. Now they have to go into a tough environment facing the Cleveland Browns, who are coming off a tough loss to Atlanta. So I think, Jacoby Brissett, he's going to be trying to toss it around a little bit. They're definitely going to be able to run the ball. I feel like the Chargers are going to be competitive in this one. This one can easily go over that 48, but I wouldn't mess with the Chargers -3. No, not at all.
Totally. You mentioned Nick Chubb, 118 rushing yards last week, 1 touchdown, and now he's going up against a Chargers defense that is 30th, Jared, in the NFL in points per game, allowing 27 points per game. Do you eye the total then here? Are you feeling over? Like, how do you bet this game?
Yeah, this is a weird one. It opened 2 over the summer. It kind of touched 3 during the look-ahead portion of the program, and now we're maybe seeing it drift back. I'll be honest, the line movement here kind of makes me think it's going to close under a field goal. And when you look at this Chargers defense, listen, they're starting to get a little healthy. And they got a little healthier last week, and, Herbert looked a little bit better after the McRib. And I'm looking at their injury report right now. Besides Keenan Allen, it looks like they're back to full strength. Keenan Allen didn't practice Wednesday. We'll see if he can go later in the week. The offensive linemen are back. And, say what you want about the Chargers kind of charging that game away against Houston the other day where they almost didn't cover. They still covered. They had a big lead, and they gave it back up. And then when the rubber met the road, Justin Herbert drove him down the field in the second half, late in the second half, got that score. Austin Eckler finally, fantasy owners, you can rejoice. Really regain some of that form that made him such a fantasy stud. And then you look at this Browns team, probably deserved to win the game against the Falcons last week, outgained Atlanta by 100 yards, 5 yards per carry on the ground. The Falcons defense, nothing to write home about. I think they'll face a little bit of a stiffer test this week against Cleveland, especially with Myles Garrett back on the practice field today. That was very encouraging. Clowney still looks like he's a no-go, but if they get half of that dynamic duo back, going to make life a little bit more difficult for Justin Herbert this week. Obviously, the Browns' running game is the key. If they can run the football effectively on a Chargers defense that has improved their numbers against the run this year, but are still middle of the pack, you would expect with their unit and with their talent and with their coach, they'd be, above average there. We'll see if they can't learn how to stop the run this week. They better learn pretty quick because Cleveland's going to try to slam it down their throat. I think this line's right. It probably closes right around 3. Total hovering around that key number, that secondary key total of 47.5. Probably closes right around there too. I don't think I want anything to do with this game. It's probably right.
Yeah, fun fact for you, the underdog is 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 meetings. So maybe lean towards the Browns here with the points. We'll see. Let's take it to the beautiful city of LA. They're taking on the Cowgirls, as I like to call them, or the Cowboys, as others like to call them. The spread right now is set at 4.5. The Rams laying the points. Total 43.5. No Dak Prescott. No problem. The Cowboys have Cooper Rush. They won their 3rd straight game. Jerry Jones really impressed with his new quarterback right now. And the Rams, Jared, I give you this one because I know we were on opposite sides, and I bet the Rams money line. The Rams didn't look too good against the 49ers, but that's okay. Dallas hasn't beaten LA on the road since September of 2014 take. Do you feel like they beat them here on the road, or does this trend keep going?
I will say this, like, I don't understand how the Rams are like -5.5 in this game. Like, I understand that they're coming off a tough loss to the San Francisco 49ers. I understand that they're playing at home and that you get like a little bit of benefit of the doubt for playing at home. You get that little advantage. But I mean, what are people seeing here? Like, this is supposed to be the bounce back spot for the Los Angeles Rams offense. Like, San Francisco gave them hell, and so now, oh, guess who's coming to town? Michael Parsons. And like, that Dallas Cowboys front seven is legit. And oh, what does Matthew Stafford like to do all the time? He likes to throw to opposing team. Well, who's the dude that led the league in interceptions last year? Yeah, that's Trayvon Diggs. Like, so nothing about the Los Angeles Rams offense looks appealing to me going against that Dallas defense. And then when you flip it around, what's the Achilles heel of the Rams defense right now? They're giving up chunk plays in the pass game. Now, obviously, the Dallas Cowboys don't have Deebo Samuel running through the entire defense like it's Tecmo Bowl. That being said, CeeDee Lamb is that dude. Noah Brown has performed well in his stint as like the number 2 wide receiver, and they just got Michael Gallup back. Dalton Schultz, Stanford, he's getting healthier too. So, and Cooper Rush has been protecting the ball and putting the ball where it needs to be in his playmaker's hand and letting them get in the end zone. So, I really don't see why this is -5.5. I don't know if the score is going to go over or under. I feel pretty good about taking Dallas +5.5 in this one.
Wow, Jared, when you look at this, are you leaning more the spread? Are you leaning more the total? Or are you like, heck no, I'm just staying away from this thing in general? Matthew Stafford is an absolute liability when it comes to throwing interceptions, and that worries me with a guy like Trayvon Diggs, because guess who? I'm not going to bring it up again, my best bet of last year, but I was going to bring it up again. I'm not going to, I promise.
You're not bringing it up again by bringing it up again. Listen, there's one there. Like, if I'm Micah Parsons, I might as well start to make my bed in the backfield. Like, just go to the field right now. Start to make your bed. Put the sheets on. Get the pillows all nice and fluffed, because that man's going to be living in the backfield against this Rams offensive line. This is a bad matchup for the Rams offensive line against the Dallas front. That's first in pass rush win rate this year. Obviously, why? I mean, Lawrence on one side, Parsons on the other, and they haven't even been using Micah in a pass rush role as much as you maybe would think. He's kind of been floating. I saw him covering like running backs the other day. Like, it's truly remarkable how much they use him in different roles, different schemes, whatever the down and distance is. It seems like he's the right, the Swiss Army knife. I'm sure he will be rushing the passer a lot. I'm sure there will be significant pressure on Matthew Stafford in this game. A huge part of that game against the Niners was they also had their starting center, Coleman Shelton, high ankle sprain, out for 4 to 6 weeks now. So the Rams offensive line already was playing bad before the game against the Niners. They gave up 7 sacks in that game. Stafford was all over the place. And they're going to be, you would think, a little bit even, more worse for the wear this week against what I think maybe is a better defensive line. I know the Niners are really good, but the Cowboys might be better. So this is a really tough matchup. That being said, this line did open 3.5 over the summer. That was with Dak Prescott's priors. I don't know if Dak is a significant upgrade from Cooper Rush. The early down numbers I'm looking at tell me that Cooper Rush is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, EPA plus CPOE. Again, early downs, what have we talked about? More predictive than late downs. So if you're telling me that Cooper Rush has been fantastically efficient on early downs, I like to think that there's something there, and it's not just a flash in the pan. And I think with some good weapons around him, Michael Gallup, you would hope at some point, is healthy. CeeDee Lamb, Noah Brown, there's guys that can make plays. And I agree with Tag. I think this is a pretty decent spot to hop on the dog.
I love it. Let's take the Cowgirls, baby. Cowgirls in the points. I'm all about it here. Let's head south to Arizona. A little warmer. The Cardinals, though, not necessarily bringing the heat. But you know who is? Is the Philadelphia Eagles, because they are the only undefeated team left in the National Football League, looking for their first 5-0 start since 2004, where the Cardinals, on the other hand, have had yet another slow start last week against the Panthers. You guys, they're the only team in the NFL that hasn't scored a single point in the first quarter all season. They need to start faster against this Eagles team, because we know what the Eagles – I know, isn't that random? Slow starts for them.
That's a random one.
Yeah. but it's just, they need to be able to start faster, especially against a team like the Eagles, who we know can take advantage of a team like the Cardinals. Jared, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with this game. I think there's way too much volatility involved with Arizona right now. I thought Arizona played well enough to win that game against. I mean, it was our best bet of the week. It really, to be fair, though, it was more of a fade of Carolina than it was a bet on Arizona. I think, Tank, you and I could have gone out there and shut down Baker Mayfield on Sunday. I just don't think there's a lot with Carolina right now, so it's hard to really get a firm sense of if that Arizona defense took a step forward in that game or if it was just Carolina was so bad. There really wasn't much to take from it. Arizona's defense is going to have to be much more buttoned up in this game. They're facing arguably the most confident quarterback in the league right now. I mean, I don't want to call him the best. I don't want to call him the most polished. I don't want to call him the most efficient. But there's a level of confidence to Jalen Hurts' game right now that I think is kind of unmatched in the league. He knows he's taken that step forward, and he knows he has the pieces around him to win. That's a very comforting feeling for a young quarterback, knowing that you don't have to do it all on your own. You got A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith, you got Miles Sanders, you got a great defensive line that that's playing good ball. Oh, by the way, you're 4-0. You're the only undefeated team in the league. So that kind of leads me to believe Philly's the right side here. But, man, if Arizona plays their good game and Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury are on the same page, I would say that's a very dangerous offense as Philly. So very tough game to handicap because I really don't know what we're going to see from Arizona.
Jared, you said you and Tank could have stopped Baker Mayfield last week. I feel like Tank maybe could have. I don't know. You might be giving yourself a little too much credit there.
You haven't seen me out on the basketball
Watch Carolina, right?
Rolling a little bit. I'm getting those runs in.
Why did we feel that one? I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Look at these armies.
Let's go. With the velvet top.
No.
Nice and smooth.
I will say, I know, honestly, I have a hard time picking up dumbbells, so you know what? It's fine. This spot, though, Tank, is a really good spot for the Eagles to prove themselves because their first 4 wins were against teams that didn't make the playoffs last year. We saw what the Cardinals were able to do last year. We saw what the Cardinals are able to do so far this season. Do you think that they can win this game and cover the 5-point spread, or were you just looking more at, hey, maybe the Eagles can go straight up? Are you leaning towards the total here?
Like I see Jared's point of view where he's talking about there's a lot of volatility with this matchup because we know what the ceiling is for Arizona. And the ceiling is if Kyler Murray is playing the way that he does in the fourth quarter for all 4 quarters, then it could be an issue for Philly and it can end up being a shootout. But they just haven't showed us that they've shown us that maybe for a half a quarter in each game. I mean, it basically was a half a quarter in the Carolina game. They finished it off at the end against the Raiders. And then some of these other games, like when they played KC, they got smacked from start to finish. And I think that you are what you put on tape. And I believe that Arizona's going to probably get waxed this week. I feel that Philadelphia had a really tough matchup against a really good Jacksonville team last week, and they showed that they can win in a shootout against Detroit. They had like a rough one where they dominated Minnesota. They had like a game in the elements against Jacksonville in the weather. Now they get to go out to Arizona and play in this pristine environment with all the confidence in the world, understand that they can win any type of game, any type of way. I have a feeling like Philly takes the gloves off in this one, and they just go out there and straight pummel Arizona. Like, that's what I'm expecting. Like, Philly -5, you don't want to bet something like that because of the volatility, but I have a pretty good feeling that if they covered against Jacksonville with the -6 or whatever it was, -6.5, I feel pretty comfortable about them covering over Arizona because Arizona's going to find a way to get in their own way. If you look at the Carolina game, they're always snapping the ball over Kyler's head at least once per game. They haven't turned the ball over that much, but one key stat that I can talk about is Philadelphia has the most takeaways in the league, and they have the least giveaways in the league. Now, Arizona's been playing pretty clean ball as far as not turning it over, but they have these bumbling mistakes that seem to bubble up in each and every game, and I think that's going to be the separator from a Philly team that plays clean ball. I think Philly gets that Rocky KO this week.
The trend might be your friend.
I have a quick follow-up here, Lauren. And this is directly for Tank because I'm curious. I don't have any experience in this realm, but Tank does. The Eagles play the Cowboys next week. I know you're a professional and it's one game at a time. Is there any look ahead vibe to this Eagles team that is, they haven't won the NFC East in a while. Now they got a chance to do it. That's the team that won it last year? Is there any look ahead at all, or is it all business?
I think it's all business because you can almost say that they looked ahead a little bit against Jacksonville because Jacksonville has that narrative of like the Jags. And they jumped up on them 14-0. And it's like, oh man, we got to get our stuff together. Like they came out to play ball. And I think one interesting nugget too is that Jalen Hurts in his press conference, I believe it was today. Like I guess I couldn't hear the question that was asked, but he's like, y'all don't get it twisted. Arizona's a good football team. We're approaching the game that way. And we're not taking anything for granted. We're going to prepare this week like we prepare for any other game. And we're going to go out to Arizona and handle biz. So I understand that Cowboy game is looming. But I think after getting down early against the Jaguars, it's going to have them coming out fast against Arizona. And if they come out fast against Arizona, we already know how Arizona's going to come out. It's going to be a wrap early.
Yeah, absolute wrap early. And the trend may be your friend here, guys, because Arizona is 0-7 against the spread in its last 7 home games. So just saying.
Wow.
Let's take it to some divisional games. I know.
That's nasty.
Kind of sticky. You want to know what you don't love to see? You don't love to see that. Okay, let's move on to some key divisional games. Bears taking on the Vikings. NFC North, the Vikings look to stay undefeated at home on the season. The Bears dropped last week to the Giants. They had 3 great red zone drives. 0 touchdowns came from this spot. Minnesota coming back from London here. And Tank, I want to go to you on this one. Being a former player, when you're traveling like that, and then you come back and now you're playing a game, how out of whack or in sync is your body? Because Minnesota right now laying 7. Would you feel comfortable betting the spread in this spot?
Actually, I would because I feel like the Vikings were reeling a little bit. And I'm gonna say this: do I feel comfortable betting 7? No. But do I feel good about the Vikings winning? Yeah, I understand that they had a long road trip. But that being said, I feel like they were reeling a little bit. But then you get a good win in London town against a good Saints defense, and now you get to come back and you get to play the Bears, who you know will give you no threat from their offensive side of the ball. Like their offense is non-existent. Like I mentioned it last week. Like whenever you see a whole bunch of flies flying around something, it's more than likely the Bears offense is just that bad, but slightly better than the Carolina offense. But I think one key thing to note about the Vikings is that they found Justin Jefferson again. Like Justin Jefferson gave Marshawn Lattimore the business. Like the last catch of the game, he literally drugged this dude on his way up to just floss on him. And it's like, if you don't know who this is, just look at the back of my jersey while you're looking up at me like you're praying to God. Like Justin Jefferson balled out, and I feel like that's going to continue. Now that they get into these divisional matchups, I feel really good about the Vikings continuing to establish that dominance, especially against the Chicago Bears team that they're still a long ways away.
They still got a little ways to go. Okay, Justin Jefferson, Jared, last week, 147 yards on 10 receptions. But you do look at the Vikings offense. Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Delvin Cook, KJ Osborne. Like the total right now is 44. Could you bet the over here for the amount of points that this Vikings team is probably going to put up against a Bears defense?
I can't bet the over in any game involving the Chicago Bears. You just can't do it. Even if you think the other team is going to – even if the total's 44 and you think the other team's going to score 42, 6 touchdowns, I still wouldn't bet. No. I mean, obviously there's a number. There's always a number that I would be willing to bet the over, but not at 44 for sure. Tank, you nailed it. Justin Fields' numbers are slightly ahead of Baker Mayfield, just slightly. So Baker's here and Justin's just barely above him. And it makes sense. There's just not a lot to this Bears offense. They haven't put Justin Fields in manageable down and distances. They haven't run him that much because they're trying to protect him. And on the other side of the ball, the Bears defense is about an average unit. So you have an average defense, you have a below average set of weapons and set of offensive skill players, and a well below average efficient quarterback. So it's just not a recipe for success on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, again, I think they have some pieces that at least can make this game interesting. But on the other side, I haven't been overly impressed with Kirk Cousins. The numbers say he's a below-average quarterback this year, despite having what Tank says the best offensive player in the game, perhaps, at wide receiver. Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook's a little banged up. We might see more Madison this week. But I think in general, there's just not a lot to like with either offense here besides Justin Jefferson being explosive. And to me, that's just not enough to get to the window on a 7-point favorite. So, I think decent teaser spot if you think Minnesota wins the game. Not my favorite teaser spot of the week. We'll get to those later. But I do think it's a decent teaser spot. And I think Minnesota wins, but I'm not overly excited about laying 7 with them.
Yeah, the Bears 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 meetings. And the over, guys, just in case you're feeling 44 is a little low, 5-2 to the over in their last 7 meetings in Minnesota. So just saying, let's take it up to the Big Apple with Jared's team, the New York Jets, taking on Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins right now
coming off a big win.
Coming off of a massive win and another fourth quarter comeback win against the Steelers. Breece Hall, good for him, scored his first rushing touchdown of his career. That has to feel good. Zach Wilson made his season debut, threw for 252 yards. And then you look at the Dolphins, who obviously that game was tough to watch after Tua went down, but they did invest in a good backup this offseason. They have Teddy Bridgewater, 8-year veteran. This is a guy who's made a Pro Bowl. He has a 33-30 all-time record. Tank, when you look at the Dolphins and the adversity that they went through, going through Tua, all of that stuff, would you feel confident as a player knowing you have an 8-year veteran now coming in under Teddy Bridgewater? Because right now they're the 3-point favorites. Would you lean the spread with Miami, or do you think the Jets kind of ride the momentum of their win last week?
You know, it's interesting. Like, I saw Tyreek at the podium. It was today, and he told the guy that asked him a question, like, honestly, dog, like, you can get out there and throw me balls, and I'm gonna still make explosive plays. I'm just that good. And he was dead serious.
God, I love him.
These guys have so much confidence. Teddy, it's insane.
He does.
They have so much confidence.
But rightfully so. I mean, Tyreek is that dude. Like, honestly, I mean, we'll probably end up talking about the Chiefs, but you know, it's that offense is still a juggernaut. We saw what they were able to do against Tampa Bay, but the element that Tyreek adds to any offense is just explosive. And so, yeah, even though you won't have Tua, you have Teddy Bridgewater. Like, Teddy is a competent quarterback. He can get the ball where it needs to go. I mean, you saw he had a splash play with Tyreek in that game against Cincinnati, and I feel like he'll be able to run the ball effectively with those running backs that they have, and he'll be able to get the ball where it needs to go in the passing game. That being said, I mean, I feel like this is like the Jets spot. Like, you find Miami with a little adversity. It is not just the fact that Tua isn't playing. I think it's everything else that's kind of swirling around the organization right now, too, because I don't have an ear inside the organization, but, like, I saw the way, like, we all saw the way that Tua stumbled in that game against the Bills. I've actually had that happen to me in the game before, playing against the Steelers, where I had a collision, and then between the next play, I was trying to walk and I just fell down, just like Tua did.
Wow.
And I stayed in the game. And fortunately, like, for me, I didn't have a situation where I got knocked out that game or the next game. I just kind of played through it and was fine. But to have that happen to Tua and then see your brother go down, have the uncertainty around when he's going to come back and play, and then also have, like, all the investigations swirling around and wondering if the team really has, like, your best interest at heart because of the way they put Tua back out there. I feel like there can be a lot of distractions that would allow the Jets to kind of sneak in and take advantage of this opportunity and possibly win the game. So as Jared likes to say, like, this is a game that I wouldn't want to touch because I have no idea how this is going to play out, especially with Zach Wilson coming back, and he has a lot of weapons to throw to too. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like, Elijah Moore, like Garrett Wilson, like Corey Davis can fly too. Like, this is interesting.
Yeah, this is a really interesting spot. The one thing that worries me about the Jets too is their defense right now. Jared, sorry to talk crap about your Jets for a second, but they're allowing 14.1 yards per catch to opponents, and then bada bing, bada boom, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both waddle into town, if you will. Can the Jets defense limit guys like Tyreek, who apparently could make plays if me in my powder puff days was throwing the ball to him at quarterback? So
I'm pretty confident I could complete a few passes to Tyreek out there. I still got a little bit of giddy up on the arm there, Tank. I'll send you some clips of me throwing balls last year on the Jets. There was like a fun little event. We'll get into it later. But Tyreek still can catch the football. Here's the one concern that I'm worried about. Jalen Waddle missed practice on Wednesday with a groin injury.
Yeah.
Keep that in the back of your mind as we head into the weekend. Obviously, Wednesday – they did – the one reason why it would be a little more concerning is because they had the long break. Whereas if it was a Sunday game and Waddle missed Wednesday, I wouldn't look that much into it if he returned on Thursday and Friday and got in some work later in the week. But the fact that they played last Thursday and he still couldn't practice on Wednesday tells me that injury might be a little more serious. Or you're going to hear it on every –
giddy up on Thursday, too. You can see it.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, I think this is a guy that's had injury concerns in the past coming out of school. That was this big, the big knock on him. And, we'll see what it is down the road if he can stay healthy. But that takes a little bit of the air out of this Dolphins offense a little bit. And it helps the Jets defense, which Lauren is spot on. They're a bottom 5 team in EPA per play this year. This is supposed to be what Robert Saleh excels in. And they've got 3 corners that are playing at a very high level. The nickel guy and, of course, the 2 outside guys, Sauce Gardner being the headliner who they drafted in the first round last year. They're playing very well in the back. They're not doing much else with the front 7. That's why the success rate on the ground is really high. I'm guessing that's where the Dolphins lean here. You've got Mostert. You've got a good offensive line. Although Teron Armstead, their big left tackle, missed practice Wednesday with a toe injury. Another big piece of that Dolphins defense continues to be out. Xavier Howard also missed practice Wednesday. Byron Jones could have been eligible to be activated off the PUP list this week. Wasn't. So starting corner, banged up. Second string corner, still not in the lineup. There's some injury issues outside of Tua to be aware of with this Dolphins team. Teddy Bridgewater obviously is going to get a lot of headlines this week. You're going to hear about it on every radio show, every gambling show, every podcast. His against the spread record is fantastic. 43-21. Teddy covers against the number in his career. But let's take a closer look. 16-11 as a favorite, 27-9 as a dog, 0-1 as a pick'em. It's when he's not supposed to win. When they're supposed to play below expectation, that's when Teddy exceeds. When they're supposed to win, laying 3 and a hook on the road, that's where Teddy struggles a little bit more. So while the against the spread record's very good, it might not be as good if you think about the optics involved with the Dolphins as a favorite this week instead of an underdog. Let's examine Zach Wilson. His numbers were very average in quarters 1 through 3. He was the 31st graded quarterback out of 33 on Sunday in quarters 1 through 3. In the fourth quarter, 3rd highest grade. I don't know what happened. He graduated, bar mitzvah, Zach Wilson, coming of age story, 2 touchdown drives on the road late against the Steelers defense that's really good. It is impressive. Is it consistent? Is it sustainable this week? I don't know. Again, the Dolphins defense has some problems. But I'll be honest, there's a little bit of vibe, a little positive vibes here with this Jets offense, with the weapons and with Zach playing the way he did. Maybe it's the consistency that's the big issue, but I wouldn't lay it with Miami this week. I'm taking 3.5 or I'm laying off this game completely.
You want to know where else there's positive vibes right now is in Atlanta, because no one expected the Falcons to be 500 4 weeks into the season. Now they're going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which might be a tough spot for them. The Bucs, though, looking to avoid an 0-3 home start. Wanted to bounce back from getting embarrassed last week by the Chiefs. I know Tom Brady looked good, but their defense couldn't stop anything. Literally couldn't stop anything. The Falcons, though, they got the momentum. Tank, do you ride this momentum this week? Because the spread right now, 8.5, that's a lot of points to grab with the Falcons here.
Yeah, it is a lot of points, and the Falcons have been playing well. I think we mentioned it on the show last week. Cordero Patterson, I mean, that dude has been balling out. He was going into week 4 as like the 3rd leading rusher in the league, so now he's on IR. They have some capable bodies to fill in his place. Tyler Adjels looked good. Caleb Huntley filled in well last week. But I think this is just a bad spot to go against your divisional foe, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off that whooping that they got against the Chiefs at home. Like, man, they're going to come out with that dog. They're getting healthier on offense. That defense is going to have a salty taste in his mouth. Like, the only way I can really see the Atlanta Falcons standing in this game is if Arthur Smith is in his bag from the get-go. And he's going to have to be fully functional, not only with, crafty runs, but also in the passing game. Like, they really didn't have Mariota throw the ball that much last week against the Browns, and it's going to be necessary that he puts it up in the air. Like, Drake London has been like a revelation to start this season. Like, the young kid balled out as a rookie. Kyle Pitts has been pretty much invisible except for the game against the Seattle Seahawks. He's going to need to show up in this one if the Atlanta Falcons are going to have a chance. They're going to have to run the ball effectively, and somehow that defense is going to have to try to slow down the pissed off Tom Brady. I don't think the Falcons have enough to get all that accomplished against Tampa Bay in this spot. So at -8.5, that's a lot of points. Over under on 48, I'll probably lean the that's kind of tricky too. I expect the Tampa Bay defense to come out firing, but probably lean the over. But I don't know. I may not want to touch this one.
The over may or may not be my best bet of the day, but you mentioned Kyle Pitts needing to show up and show out. I know because I have him on my fantasy team, and he's been absolute dog shit through 4 weeks. It hurts, Tank, right? It hurts. Come on. Let's get it going, Kyle Pitts, please. For the love of our fantasy teams. Thank you very much. Jared, the Bucks, though, 4-0 against the Falcons with Tom Brady in charge. All of those wins by double digits. So maybe the 8.5 is a little too low for Tom Brady in this spot. And also, the Falcons just hate Tom Brady in general because let me tell you, living in Atlanta, they still talk about when the Patriots came back and beat them in the Super Bowl and embarrassed themselves, basically. They're still not over it. It's always going to be too soon here in Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to get over that one. Not you personally, but the city of Atlanta.
The generic you. The Atlantean you. Yeah.
You're speaking for the city of Atlanta on this show. The city of Atlanta. Listen, Tom owns the Falcons, guys. It's not just with the Bucks where you're right. He hasn't lost a game. He hasn't lost a game, period, in his entire career. He's 9-0 against the Falcons. 8-1 against the spread. The only loss against the spread to this Falcons team was in 2020 when they were a 6-point favorite and they fell behind 17-0 at half, and they outscored Atlanta 31-10 in the second half, won the game by 4, just barely didn't cover the spread, which was 6. This has been a total domination, one-sided rivalry, you want to even call it that. In the NFC South, of course, too. It's been all Tampa since Tom arrived. And listen, I think when you look at this Bucs team, they're getting healthier on offense. Everyone practiced today, with the exception of Tom, ironically enough, but I'm sure he'll play this week.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, he's going to play this week. But Donovan Smith, that's a huge injury. Left tackle starting to play a little bit better too up front. You get Hainsey at the center position in for Ryan Jensen, who went on IR preseason. You were really worried about that, key up the middle protection scheme for Tom Brady. Well, Hainsey was one of the better graded offensive linemen of the week, and he's starting to feel his oats a little bit at that center position. Of course, that's no easy spot with Tom Brady, with his hands underneath your butt 100 times a game. But listen, this is a very good Tampa Bay offense, arguably a top 5 offense in the league when everyone's healthy and the weapons are there with Julio and Godwin and Mike Evans, who was open every play, it seemed, against the Chiefs. Defensively is where I'm curious. But when you look at the matchup this week, Tank mentioned it, Cordell Patterson out. Why is that important? Well, usually the Bucs have been a team that you can't run on. Don't even try to run on them. This year it's been different. How about this? 25th in rushing success rate this year. Almost 47% of runs against the Bucs have graded out successful against this defense. That's very strange and odd and against the scheme that we've seen from Todd Bowles in recent years. But can Atlanta take advantage of that? Tyler Allgeier's got 26 career carries. He looked good against the Browns, 10 for 84, but now he's carrying the mail against what is historically a really good Bucs front. On the other side, next to him is Marcus Mariota, who only completed 7 passes against the Browns for 139 yards. His production and efficiency has dropped off significantly from week to week. I don't think Arthur Smith's doing anything differently. I just think now you've had 4 weeks of this offense on tape. Week 1, he was fantastic against the Saints. There was nothing on tape. We've seen it significantly decrease with his efficiency since. So I just think this is a really bad matchup for Atlanta. You have the Bucs at a buy low spot after losing 2 games. This line opened 11.5 over the summer. I got in at 8. It's a 3.5-point move through a secondary key number. Yeah. So to me, this is like the spot for Tampa Bay to really stretch their legs and show people that they're still a Super Bowl contender. And I really think it's also hammered out.
It's also not a good spot for Atlanta just because they're playing Tom Brady. Enough said. Seriously, the total is hit over in 7 of Tampa's last 8 games against Atlanta 2 Tank. So if you wanted to lean that over, which may or may not be my best bet of the day, we will get to those in a second. Maybe it's a good spot to do so. Okay, one more divisional matchup we want to touch on before getting into some teasers and then Monday Night Football. We have the Bengals taking on the Ravens. 2 teams right now in the AFC North looking to get over 500. Bengals handed Miami their first loss of the season last weekend, and then the Ravens. Oh, the poor Ravens on the wrong side of an incredible game. The second time this season, guys, they choked in the second half and blew a double-digit lead. Lost to the Bills. I mean, Tank, when you're on the Ravens team, you do that twice through 4 weeks of the season. Are you hungrier coming into this game? Would you feel comfortable laying the points with the Ravens, or are they just disappointed in themselves at this point?
There's definitely some uncertainty in the locker room. I will say that because I can't remember the exact games, but they had similar experiences with this last year where they would try to go for it on some of those analytical situations where you can kick the field goal, do you go for it? And then they end up going for it and it doesn't pan out and then they end up losing the game. I think it was the game that started their 6 or 8 game skid last year or something like that. So I feel like the Ravens, they're probably doing a little bit of soul searching this week, and they have a tough matchup going against their division rival, the team that represented the AFC in the Super Bowl last year. So there's a lot of factors going into this game. J.K. Dobbins, I believe he didn't practice today because he had a chest. I mean, the one good thing is that they have Gus Edwards coming back. But even with that being said, besides Lamar Jackson, that running game hasn't really showed up. And that was one thing that you can go ahead and depend on the Ravens, regardless of what was going to go on with their offense, they were going to run the ball down your throat. I mean, they had this long streak about having so many 100-yard rushing games, I believe. When did it end? This year or something like that? And so when you have a team that has some uncertainty, like how you said that Jalen Hurts is walking around, he's probably the most confident quarterback in the league right now. Usually that's the kind of aura that the Ravens roll around with, that orange aura that they were talking about Rick James had. The Ravens usually kind of roll around with that because they know they're the shit. But right now, everything isn't clicking for them, and so there's a little bit of doubt. And I feel like this could be the perfect opportunity for the Cincinnati Bengals to build upon what they did against the Miami Dolphins and then go in and beat their division rival while they're catching them with a little bit of doubt in their head. This is a game where I'm really not sure how it's going to pan out. I just think it's going to be a really good game. I'm looking forward to watching it, but it's not anything that I mess with.
Yeah, Jared, I feel like AFC North divisional matchups are usually pretty tough to predict. And you look at their games last year, the Bengals won both games by a score of 82-38, but you can't really, look at that too much just because of all the stuff that the Ravens were dealing with last year. Well, right now their ego is shot, and they might be dealing with a little bit more just in a different way this year. Would you lean the Bengals here, or are you kind of staying away from this AFC North matchup?
Well, if you've been following along our futures column, you know that Baltimore was a buy low potential this week. And you know that Cincinnati was a buy low after their week 1 loss. So the only way you can get to being buy low is if you suck, right? So we've seen some poor play from both of these teams, and we've seen some very volatile results from the Ravens. I mean, if you were going to ask me, they're going to blow 2 games at home where they're double-digit fourth-quarter leads. I mean,
not good.
And Tank, you can attest to this. You used to be afraid to go into that building and play. The defenses would scare the crap out of you. Doesn't seem like that's the vibe anymore in Baltimore. Seems like things are a little bit more spread it out, let Lamar run around and make plays, and, hopefully we'll figure things out defensively. Now, I will say this, other than Dobbins, who Tank mentioned missed practice Wednesday, Rashad Bateman also missed practice on Wednesday with a foot injury. He has been someone that has not been able to stay healthy throughout the early stages of his career, and he's also been someone that has been a bit of a spark for this Ravens offense early in the season. Duvernay and Bateman have been really strong. So you take Dobbins out of the mix, who looked good in very limited run on Sunday, and now Bateman's a little nicked up. And you could start to make a case where Cincinnati's defense, which is a top 10 unit this year, they've played well at times. They, in a tough situation after the Tua injury last week, did what they had to do to close that game out. And now you're catching points in a divisional spot against the Ravens team that clearly has confidence issues, especially in the fourth quarter. I think that's where I would lean in this game. But because of my futures exposure to Cincinnati, I'm just going to hope they win the game, and then we'll move on from there. But if I had to pick this game from a spread perspective, I would rather have 3 points in my back pocket.
Yeah, Cincinnati is 10-2 against the spread in their last 12 games. So that trend could also be your friend Jared in this spot. All right, let's move on to Monday Night Football. The Raiders, guys. Woo! Praise the Lord. They have finally won a game against the Broncos. Josh Jacobs looked really good, 175 total yards, 2 touchdowns. And the Chiefs absolutely steamrolled over the Bucs defense. Mahomes, 3 touchdown passes to 3 different players. He also had 189 yards on the ground as a team. I know Vegas needs another win this week to get back in the divisional race, but bad news for them. They're 1-8 straight up in their last 9 games against the Chiefs. Tank, do they stand a chance at all?
So you're telling me they got a chance? All right, so we taking it to Dumb and Dumber. Nah, I don't think so. I think the only chance that the Chiefs gave, it was against the Indianapolis Colts, where they gave the Colts that win playing in Indianapolis, and then that pissed them off. And then they went into Tampa Bay and dismantled the Bucs. And so now you get a Raiders team who's not playing as gritty and doggish as they were last week, because they finally got off the Ofer, got off the schneid. So they have a win, so they probably won't come in as aggressive as they normally would. It's a division game. You always hate when you play your division opponent, so they're going to come out ready to play. I mean, the point is just this. The Raiders aren't that good. I mean, when you look at it, you say, oh, they got Devontae Adams. They have Darren Waller. I mean, I think that Hunter Renfrow is probably going to be back. They said he was practicing with the non-contact jersey on. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready for the game, but at least he's back out there on the practice field. But there's no way that Raiders defense is going to slow down the Chiefs at all. Like, that's just not going to happen. And I feel that if the Raiders would click on all cylinders, yeah, they could put up some points, but are they going to be able to do anything close to beating the Chiefs? Like, absolutely not. And that's all I'm going to say on this game, because we have a little bit of this action going into my best bet. But I guess you can already tell what my lean is on.
Yeah, so you're saying there's not a chance because the Chiefs have gone 9-1 in their last 10 home games. Jared, are you giving the Raiders any sort of a chance at all, or are you laying the points here with Casey?
So 89-23. That was the score margin last year between these two teams. It was not close. It was not close.
That ain't good.
I'll repeat that one more time for those in the back. The Chiefs scored 89 points in 2 games again. Now, to be fair, that was against Gus Bradley's blitzing cover 3 scheme. Bit of a different defensive scheme this year. Not sure it'll matter. If you're asking me, do I think the Raiders are going to win this game? No. If you're asking me what is the game script for the Raiders to stay in this game, it's 2 words. Josh Jacobs. That's it. Mm-hmm. You finally saw the real Josh Jacobs come to the forefront last week.
Well, the real Josh Jacobs, please stand up.
Yeah. You finally saw this Raiders offensive line, which has just been awful, finally get some movement. Now, the Broncos defense, there's cases to be made while they're a little bit overrated, especially against the run. I don't care. It was a positive step for a Raiders defense against a professional defensive line in a very strong effort from Josh Jacobs. You want to make up this alternate reality where the Raiders keep this game close. It's Josh Jacobs left, right, and center. Patrick Mahomes is on the sideline sipping his Powerade or Gatorade or whatever whatever sponsor they drink for their sports
Whatever they're
drink.
sipping over there in Kansas City.
Whatever it is. You hope it's not anything alcoholic, and you hope it's a virgin drink, because I'll be honest, that's the only recipe I see for the Chiefs to not blow this game out of the water. Is Josh Jacobs left, right, and center, and the Raiders' own time of possession. That's it. That's it.
Whenever you bring on the snort,
down the run game, this game is gonna be over fast.
You're like, that's the only hope the Raiders have if Patrick Mahomes is drinking on the sidelines. Okay, that's the only hope.
Pretty much it. Sipping a little Hennessy, Cavassier, a little rum and coke. I don't know, whatever he likes.
Oh, he's a classy man.
Whatever his fancy is. I don't know, but to me, it's Josh Jacobs. That's the only hope the Raiders have really to stay in this game.
Oh, man, that's some good stuff. I absolutely love it. All right, let's get into teaser time. You've teased us enough, Jared. It's time for your – wow, that was loud. Sorry, I did not mean to make it that loud. It's time for your teasers of the week. You have 2 of them. Please tell us more.
Yeah, we got to have 2 legs, or else it's a teaser doesn't work with 1 leg. We're just buying points. Here we go. This is what we're rolling with. We're doing the Bucs through 2 key numbers, through 7 and 3. And we're going to move the Commanders. We're going to take a chance here.
Wow.
This is risky.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Bear with me, guys. Here we go. Commanders through 3 and 7. Get them up to 8.5. They're at home against the Titans. Brian Robinson Jr. will return this week. Huge emotional lift for a guy that had a gunshot wound to his leg 4 weeks ago and is now looking like he is on track to play in an NFL game a month later. First of all, he's a great player. That just his talent aside, the emotional uplift of that, I think, will help this Commanders team. Secondly, and this is the more important part of the handicap, we do not trust Mike Vrabel as a favorite. I'll repeat it again. We do not trust Mike Vrabel as a favorite. Against the spread in his career, 41% cover rate as a favorite. As a dog, he's amazing. 62.5%, 20-12 against the spread as a dog. As a favorite, this isn't the preferred role for Mike Vrabel and the Titans. He's kind of that dog coach. He usually gets the best out of his guys, very emotional. But I think as a favorite, that's where they struggle a little bit. And I think it's because there's not as much of a motivating factor. You're supposed to win the game. So that's where I struggle a little bit with this Titans team. Their defense is awful. I think if there is a get-right antidote for Carson Wentz, who showed a couple of things early in the season, but they kind of fell off the tank, kind of fell off the map the last couple weeks. But I think they play a little better this week at home. And again, I get them through both key numbers, 3 and 7. They don't have to win the game. Just keep it within 1 score. And I think Brian Robinson Jr. will be a big lift for this Commanders offense.
And Mike Vrabel, we do not trust. But you want to know who we do trust in? Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports we trust in. Pickswise Playbook, guys. Presented by Superbook Sports. Make sure to download the Superbook app or visit superbook.com right now, and they will match your first bet up to $1,000. Plus, guys, we're all rooting for safeties. If you place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or any total at Superbook, and there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. So make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions and to sign up for the #1 voted sportsbook in Vegas. Now available at the palm of your hand. Want to know?
We've got a few safeties this year, guys. We've already had a few safeties this year, too. We've already had
So
some.
make sure to do it, guys. Go to superbook.com. You don't want to miss out on free money. Speaking of free money, Tank, I'm heading to you for your best bet of the day. Win me some money, please.
Hey, let's go back to prime time. What we talk about? We have Raiders at Kansas City. I'm taking the over 51 in this one. Jared, throw out that stat to me. What was the point total from last year?
83, 20, 89, 23. 89, 23.
89 to 23.
They scored 89 points in 2 games.
Right, in 2 games. And so they're going against that same team. We know what my man Patrick Mahomes likes to do underneath those bright lights when they're the only game on TV. I feel like this one is a layup. I feel like the Chiefs are going to continue to roll and show what they did against the Bucs, which is one of the better defenses in the league. And now they get opportunity to go up against the Raiders defense, which is one of the worst defenses in the league, at home. So regardless of what the Raiders do on offense, I actually feel like if they get down, you have Devontae Adams, you have Darren Waller, you have some guys that you can sling the ball around to and put up some garbage points at the end. I feel real comfortable about what the
Mhm.
Chiefs are going to do on offense. I feel that the Raiders can kind of hold up there on the garbage side of it. So I feel pretty comfortable in going over 51 points in this matchup.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm also doing an over, but Jared, we're betting on the same game, just in different ways. So I'll let you hit it first, and then I'll take you to the over.
So you're saying we might be in a good spot for a same game parlay, which is always a fun bet.
Absolutely.
Especially when you have two very positive looks. And I think this is a really good spot for the Bucs. This line opened 11.5 over the summer. What have we seen since? Well, Tampa Bay's been arguably the most injured team in the league, especially on the offensive line and at the skill position on offense, while the Falcons have shown some positive steps in year 2 under Arthur Smith with this offense. But it's a bit of a gimmicky offense with Marcus Mariota, who's kind of tailed off a little bit over the last few weeks as more of this offense gets put on tape. And Cordero Patterson, who I know Kyle Pitts is great and Drake London, but I think Cordero Patterson right now is the most important player on this Falcons offense because he does so much in the backfield and he's so dangerous. The defense has to be aware at all times. And when you're focused on one guy in the backfield, that's when the other guys really can hurt you. So with Patterson out, it's Tyler Algier, who's much more of a straight line, one cut back. They're not going to move him around like they did Cordero. He played well. He ran for good numbers against the Browns on Sunday. But again, I just don't see the Browns defense in the same stratosphere as the Bucs. And while Tampa Bay's been run on this year, I'd be willing to bet that they clean up that part of their game. This is a team historically that's been one of the best rushing defenses in the league over the last couple of seasons under Todd Bowles. I don't think magically 1 year goes by and it's just going to go all to crap. I think eventually we'll see some positive regression with the Bucs rushing defense. And I think Tom Brady, I mean, I don't want to make anything off the field on the field, but he's probably going to be pretty pissed off this week based off of all the headlines we're seeing. And I'm assuming the field is going to be his sanctuary. And that's where he'll be able to block out all these distractions and focus on what's been a really bad Falcons offense that was gashed for 400 yards against the Falcons, or that was gashed for 400 yards against the Browns, but still find a way to win the game. You got some luck inside the 5-yard line there with some turnovers and some missed field goals and some penalties. I just don't see Tom Brady making those same mistakes that Jacoby Brissett made on Sunday. This feels like that 48-25 game we saw between these two teams last year. That's just kind of the vibe I get with Tom Brady just putting up a big number and this Bucs defense doing enough to get back on track, cover the spread, and snap a 2-game losing streak, which is very un-Brady-like. So I think this is a good buy low spot for Tampa Bay this week.
Yeah, there's no way they go 0-3 at home to start the season. There's just absolutely no way. And the fact that Tom Brady is 4-0 against the Falcons since he's been playing for the Bucs fares well for him in the Bucs in this game. I also really like the over 48.5 here. I know Tampa's defense couldn't stop anything last week, but it was really good to see their offense get going. Now you have Chris Godwin, Julio Jones. They made a difference for them. They're getting healthier. They're gelling together. They're figuring it out. And you look at Atlanta. They're really bad at stopping teams from scoring. They're allowing the 8th most points in the NFL per game out of all the teams. And the over is hitting 7 of the last 8 games between these two teams. Both teams have good offensive weapons. God bless Kyle Pitts. Please get going for the sake of both me and Tank's fantasy teams. Please, 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 please.
2 fantasy references in the show. That's it. That's your quota.
That's it. I know. 3rd time's the charm, though. I could make one more, but I'm not going to. I'll save it for Let's Bet It tomorrow.
We're going to run out of time.
I do feel really good about the over 48.5. Lock it in. Bucs offense. They're feeling good right now. They're feeling frisky, and I feel like they're going to be hungry coming into this game. They don't want to start the season 0-3 at home, and they want to make a statement in front of the Tampa Bay crowd, and they want to make a statement to the entire NFL because people are doubting them a little bit after last week. Guys, love doing the show with you. Week 5, done, dusted. Well, not quite, but the show is done and dusted. Week 5 is still bright ahead of us. So, best of luck with your bets, guys. This has been Pickswise Playbook presented by Superbook Sports. That's Tank Williams. I think I'm pointing the right way this time. That's it.
There we go.
Let's go, guys.
Yes.
Until next week, Chapter 6. This is Chapter 5. Let's get it. Pickswise Playbook.